It is that time of the week again. It is Friday evening, 8 o'clock sharp Eastern Standard Time. So you know it's time to talk West Virginia football. And unfortunately, West Virginia fans are not in the best of moods right now because the season it hasn't started the way that we wanted. In fact, it started the complete opposite. Like this seems like a train wreck right now. Now, is there time to get it straightened out? Yes, but losing to Kansas, that is demoralizing. Before we go on any further, quick reminder to everybody, we are streaming over 3 channels: Golden Blue Dude, Voice of College Football, and Voice of College Football West Virginia. So thank you for watching 3 streams. And if you haven't hit the like, even if you don't like us or the video necessarily, it just helps the video hit the YouTube algorithm. So if you would, please get the thumbs up. It helps the video hit the algorithm, gets the video suggested more people see it, click on it, boom, that's how you grow your audience. You're actually helping yourself because you can talk smack to more people. The more people there are in the chat, the more people you can talk trash to, excuse me. Super chat. If you have a question for me or any of our guests, best way to do that is a super chat. That is that little $sign that you see on the bottom right-hand corner. Anything that you put in that super chat, we will throw on the screen. If it's a question, we'll answer it to the best of our ability. If it's a comment, we'll read it, address it. And hey, even if you want to make fun of me, and this is the week to make fun of me because I am super, super mad at this. This was total bull crap. I'm not going to cuss, but it's bull crap, and I'm mad about it. And here along with me, we have Mountaineer Paul and Travis Kenobi. What's going on, gentlemen?
What's up?
Are you guys as mad as I am? Because I'm in a foul mood over this, man.
I'm livid.
I can't believe it. And honestly, I got to give, and I know a lot of it was trolling, but I got to give some of my subscribers a tip of the cap because they're like, Kansas is going to upset somebody. Could it be West Virginia? Maybe, because your defense didn't look all that great against Pitt. And I was like, I just don't see us losing it. There was no reality or scenario that I could imagine West Virginia losing to Kansas. Are you freaking kidding me? What was your reaction, Mountaineer Paul?
Mixed reactions. I've had some time to think on it before the game. I'm like everybody else. I thought this was a walk in the park for the Mountaineers. We're at home. It's a night game. How often since you've been following this team over your life have you seen us lose a night game like that? It doesn't happen often.
Not very often.
And so here come Kansas in the running for the worst Power 5 team of the last decade. If they didn't have the Orange Bowl, that's the only argument they have. So we felt pretty good going into that game, and we drop a shootout somehow by 13 in overtime. And, listening to other coaches talk about Kansas since then, I've come to the belief that Kansas is actually just much better than a lot of people think that they are. Dana Holgorsen had a press conference this week about Kansas, and even and I've never heard him. He always said good things in the past about Kansas, but I've never heard him say the things he said about Kansas. His exact words were the same word that Coach Neal Brown said was, they are a problem.
Yeah, they were a big problem for us. I think it was a combination of two things. I think it was Kansas was better than what we thought, and our defense did not show up.
No.
If you watch the game, and I've said this a couple of times, even the announcers were like, what is up with the body language of the defense of West Virginia? Like, even the announcers could tell that they were not in the game. Like, I think this was deja vu of last year. Last year, we were in a good, hard-fought game against Oklahoma, came just short. And then the following game, we come out totally flat against Texas Tech and end up losing against Texas Tech. And West Virginia was the better team. Texas Tech fans will argue about that, but West Virginia should have won that game. They were the better team, but we just came out flat in the first half. Same exact thing this year. Hard-fought game against Pitt. A lot of mistakes, stupid mistakes, actually. Didn't go for it on 4th and 6 inches. I call it fourth and guaranteed. I always will for here and forever because we were averaging close to 6 yards a carry on rushing. And even if JT Daniels wasn't comfortable under center for a sneak, put out Garrett Green. He would have done it in a heartbeat. So, we lose that game in a close, heartbreaking fashion. And it just seemed like the defense's head was still at the backyard brawl. Does that make any sense?
I don't know that it does. And initially I thought that 4th and 1, not going for it, caused the defense to lose complete faith and buy-in, and maybe that's why Kansas walloped our defense. But now that I've had time to digest it, I actually have sort of the opposite thoughts as Paul, in that before the game, I actually wrote in my preview article that Kansas is not a team we can overlook this year. Kansas is better. I know that they had just beaten up an FCS opponent, right? I mean, nobody good. But Kansas did what a Power 5 team is supposed to do against an FCS team, and they've had trouble doing that in the past decade. That was their largest victory in 7 years, and they did it in convincing fashion. I mean, 10 yards per offensive play. So I said, look, Texas got beat by Kansas. Kansas almost beat TCU and West Virginia to end the season. And they come out looking pretty good against an FCS team, which is something they struggled to do. So I said, Kansas is looking to upset somebody. The problem is that for the Mountaineer faithful, we just had a heartbreaking loss to Pitt. We can't be the ones that Kansas makes the statement against.
Right.
And we ended up being the ones that Kansas made the statement against.
Exactly what we didn't want.
But I think what happened during the game for the defense is less about fight and more about assignment and missing them.
Yep.
The triple option is not something you see that often. It's relatively easy to defend if you know what you're looking at and you know who has what assignment. But Kansas put a lot of window dressing on it. If you notice, they were running 12 personnel a lot of the time.
One of y'all is having feedback right this second. I don't know. Hold on, let me just do a quick check. Hold on. Go ahead, Travis.
Yeah, it wasn't coming from me.
Okay.
Because I had muted my mic when I first heard it, and it didn't stop it. But it's like they had window dressing on it. They were running 12 personnel. They ran the option most often against the strong side. So they ran it to the weak side. So they were bringing more of our personnel against the play. And you notice our safeties look lost. That explains the body language. The body language is, that's your assignment. No, that's your assignment. And nobody knew what they were doing. Right. The thing that disappoints me most about that game, though, is I said to myself, and I wrote in my notes, and I actually pulled it up on my phone just to make sure I was remembering right. But I said, West Virginia is going to make some adjustments at the half, and they're not going to stop the bleeding, but they're going to substantially lessen it.
Right.
That's what I thought was going to happen. That did not happen. There were no adjustments made at all by the defense. And the adjustments that you need to make in that situation is to tell 3 guys, you stick the quarterback, you stick the inside handoff, and you stick the outside pitch. I don't care what kind of pre-snap movement there is, you stay on those guys.
Right.
And we didn't do that. As a result, we lost the game. I don't think we came out flat-footed because JT Daniels didn't throw his first incomplete pass until 6 minutes left in the first half.
That dude is
our offense
fired.
was coming, and if the defense could have made one or two more stops in the first half, it would have been a 2 to 3 score game going into halftime.
Yep.
But when we're only down 7 and we can't stop Kansas going into the half, I'm thinking this is rough.
What was it? They scored 21 or 28 unanswered points.
Yeah, no, it was
not good.
And actually, they tied it right before the half, right? But the only drive we didn't score on in the first half was that last drive where we just kneeled it out and let the clock run down.
Yep. It's really crazy that we fixed our offense, and now our defense is become the liability. I'm totally baffled because I was confident that the defense would be great as usual, but how much better will our offense be? Now it's our offense keeping us in these football games and our defense letting us down. Like that's really I mean, I guess it shouldn't be that surprising because we do have JT Daniels, and everybody's told me how much better our offense is going to be, and I believed it as well. But I thought that our defense was fixed, and I knew we had a lot of turnover in the offseason, but we've had that in the past, and we still put out a pretty good defense. So I wasn't even thinking about possibly having defensive issues. That wasn't even on my brain. What upset you the most, Mountaineer Paul?
The lack of assignment, just like Travis said. Our defensive line didn't play up to snuff. I mean, we know that they didn't play as well as they're capable of playing. But also, the transfer Davitsky is one of the best centers in the country. Those guys have been together for 7 years, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and head coach. And that continuity is the reason. An interesting stat from that game, Kansas only ran the same play or the same formation 4 times all game. That almost never happens.
Yep.
So for that much window dressing, coupled with the inexperience we have in the secondary and a linebacker, was a recipe for disaster, just like Travis said. Lee, Lance, they haven't played a lot of football. And so that, adjustments on the fly are not what you want to have when you've got an experience. If we could have had anybody else that had some experience back there, maybe you can pull that off. But
right. I
trying
agree.
to adjust on the fly with inexperienced players. X3 Lowe is somebody that is pretty experienced. I don't know if he slides in. I heard Coach talk about possibly some movement amongst linebacker and other spots. John Martin at defensive end. It'll be interesting to see. But overall, I was just disappointed in everything. It was everything.
Yeah. I am glad that this week is basically a practice week, and we're going to get the trolls, and I invite the trolls. Townsend upsetting West Virginia. It's not going to happen. I know we were confident about beating Kansas, but Townsend is a whole different story. That's the FCS, and it's not even going to be close. It's going to be a blowout. So we're going to be in that game. We're going to be trying to figure out, what to fix and what's wrong and why are we missing assignments and all that stuff. So it's going to be more like a tune-up game. Not worried about it. But after Townsend, I mean, David Cummings says the next 5 weeks tell the tale for Neal Brown. I would agree with that because we are not favored in any games after Townsend. That loss to Kansas changed all the FPI percentages whenever it came to West Virginia winning a football game. And their preseason prediction was 5-7, and that was with them counting a win over Kansas. So now they're flipping over to where it's looking like they have us at 1-11. Now that's not going to happen. I don't care who you are. That's not going to happen. However, there is a real possibility of West Virginia missing a bowl. I think the next important game is the road trip to Virginia Tech. I know you could say that for obvious reasons. But if we lose that road trip to Virginia Tech, I don't think West Virginia is going to a bowl. Would you all agree with that?
Yes, I do.
Absolutely.
I mean, depending on how they respond, they might struggle even if they beat Virginia Tech to get to a bowl. But you have to beat Virginia Tech is a you have to check that box sort of game. And you know, when I wrote my preview for Towson, I actually dedicated exactly 2 sentences to Towson. And those 2 sentences were the same thing I say every time we play an FCS opponent. West Virginia's never lost to one yet.
Right. And it's not like they're playing North Dakota State either.
Right. And I mean, Towson is a mid-tier at best FCS school.
Right.
So if we struggle in that game, I'm going to be cashing in some stock and sending a donation to the MAC. That's a special purpose donation.
Oh man,
for a very specific reason.
I will be checking out as a fan for the rest of the year, to be honest with you. So I made a video earlier today. I don't know if y'all are able to check it out, and it's not like hard concrete stuff, but it's a bunch of things that I thought about that made sense. That the reason I made the video is for other people to think about. And what it was based on is people want Neal Brown gone, right? And we know that Shane Lyons has defended Neal Brown like to the ends of the earth. Like if he's the AD, he's not firing Neal Brown. So the fans want to take it a step further and fire Shane Lyons, right? Now, y'all know me. I'm a conference realignment guy. I'm known as clickbait dude, whatever. I've talked about it at length. And one of the big things that I've seen and heard, not just from like one person, but like multiple people, is the SEC's interest in West Virginia. And before y'all laugh me out of the building, hold on, okay, hold on. There was interest the first go around. It was Texas A&M and either Missouri or West Virginia. Missouri got the nod because of the Kansas City TV market. And then last year, Texas and Oklahoma going to the SEC, right? Well, we heard this next round, they're interested in Florida State, Clemson, Virginia, and North Carolina. But the grant of rights thing is it's just unbreakable unless they dissolve the conference. So the ACC is off the slate. So those first 4 teams are off the slate. And from my understanding, West Virginia, Oklahoma State, Miami, and Virginia Tech are in the next 4. Well, Miami and Virginia Tech, they're in the ACC as well, so they would be off. So Oklahoma State, now this is from what I understand, putting 2 and 2 together, West Virginia and Oklahoma State would be going from the next 4 to the first 4, okay? Now, the connection between West Virginia and the SEC is Greg Sankey and Shane Lyons. Shane Lyons and Greg Sankey are actually really, really close. They're together on the NCAA, that committee that's trying to fix the NCAA and FBS and all that stuff. Can't think of the name of it off the top of my head.
Board of Directors?
No, it's not Board of Directors. It's I said it on my video and I done forgot. But anyways, and it's also come out that West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin and I think it's Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville are working together to create better NIL guidelines. So there's a lot of West Virginia SEC connections. Now, this is a big what if, okay? This is not like this is connected 100%. I'm just saying it could be, right? So if this is a, either or situation, let's just play the what if game, okay? So on one side, it's, we got to get rid of Neal Brown, but in order to get rid of Neal Brown, we have to get rid of Shane Lyons. We want to win now. We know the buyout's big, but losing ticket sales might actually end up being bigger than the buyout. Q's explained that pretty well, actually. So on one side, keep them, but keep, being okay at best, and ticket sales start plummeting, right? Keep them, but you have the link to the SEC with Shane Lyons in this scenario, okay? Or the other side is we're done with them. We want to win now, so we have to get rid of Shane Lyons in order to get rid of Neal Brown and go out and get a Hugh Freeze or a Tom Herman, high-profile coach. We want to have success now. But if you fire Shane Lyons and Neal Brown, you break the connection between West Virginia and the SEC. I'm not saying that's true. Not at all. What I am saying is, if that were the choice, which way would West Virginia need to go? Oh, I think you're on mute, buddy. Hold on. There you go.
I was. Sorry about that.
No problem.
I don't think that is the choice, actually, because here's what's going to happen. If we end up 3-9 or 1-11 or somewhere below bowl threshold, the pressure is going to mount and the donors are going to be calling. I mean, David brings up a good point. Regardless what Shane says to us publicly, Shane is on the phone with people. Shane is having conversations. He is not going to let the program continue to go down to 5-7, 4-8, 3-9 sort of territory without having consequences be paid. And I do believe that there are donors who have already spoken out and said,
oh yeah,
the down payment on the payout rather, is paid. Now keep in mind, they don't have to pay this all at once. They can structure it as a settlement. So
right.
It's not like they have to come up, if they fire him before January, they have to come up with $20 million, and after it's 16.5, 16.6.
So hold on, is what David Cummings, is that basically what you're saying? He's saying Shane Lyons is still on the phone trying to figure things out. It sounds like that's exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, no, I mean he's having phone calls all the time.
Right.
I think the main issue I have with Brown, and this is ultimately what my Towson quote preview was about, was that the state of West Virginia is built up of hardworking, literally backbreaking workers, right? Like coal miners, manufacturers, people who work in chemical manufacturing plants, backbreaking work, people who fight against outside stereotypes day in and day out. We don't play victim in this state, right? We don't play victim. We fight against it. And
right.
Brown doesn't seem like he gets it, and he tries to teach his team that, take them to the coal mines, but he doesn't get it at the same time.
There's a disconnect somewhere.
He's not actually a fighter himself, it seems like.
He's more of a thinker.
A disconnect between practice and application.
Yeah,
exactly.
Seems like he's a thinker, an overthinker.
Unless he's fighting against the refs, he's happy to do that, but he's fighting the wrong things, right? It's just the sense that I get. And
yeah,
if that is not an adjustment that he can or is willing to make, then Neal Brown is not the right coach for this university.
Yep.
Period. And Shane Lyons has to know that. And I'd almost guarantee, I can't fully guarantee it, but I'd almost guarantee that he's heard from more than a dozen big dollar donors who are telling him, if things don't turn around right now, you got to get rid of him. So I think it's a false choice. If Neal Brown recovers the season and we end up 8-4 or something like that, it makes Lyons' job a little easier.
Yeah.
But if we don't, I don't think Lyons has a choice, really.
Yeah, I think FSU 45 is agreeing with that 100% as well. Thank you, buddy, for the $10 donation. Says, good evening, everyone. If Brown changes his attitude to a positive one, then so will the team's attitude change to a positive one. Go Mountaineers. I don't think I would necessarily label it as a positive one. I would label it as from thinking too much to fighting. To me, he seems more like a thinker, and he's over-analyzing and dissecting instead of just, firing his guys up and sending them to battle. Does that make sense?
Right.
I think he's a little too low-key. We went from, a guy that's off the rails with Dana Holgerson to a guy that's kind of too, cool and calm and collected. Like, you have got to get fired up in certain situations and get your guys' head in the game. And I think that if you would have just gone for it, even if you don't make it, I think going for it on 4th and 6 inches would have kind of be like, hey, he's going for it. We're here to win. We're not here to not lose. We're here to win. So sometimes I get pushback on that. I'm like, there's too many things that made sense for him to go for it on 4th and 6 inches. There's only like a couple of things like the percentage and, field position. And yes, those are big things, but everything else was on the side of go for it. I mean, we had momentum. We were averaging, almost 6 yards a carry for rushing. Our offensive line was getting big time movement on their defensive line. You get that, you ice the game basically. I mean, you could run maybe 3 minutes and get a field goal. You have a 10-point lead with about 3.5 minutes left. That puts pressure on them. It seems like Neal Brown makes decisions that puts pressure on his team instead of pressure on the other team.
And that's part of it. That's part of the fight. Like, we are fighters, man. We push back against people. And that decision was the exact opposite. But not only was it the exact opposite of that, it's the exact opposite of the types of things that Neal Brown says in press conferences. Neal Brown says, we're going to fight. Neal Brown says, if we need a half yard and everybody in the building knows we're going to run it, we are going to be the team that runs it and not only gets the yard, but gets an extra 2.
And then it
and Neal Brown talks about, and all of his staff talks about this offseason, we want our players to stop thinking about the game and just perform. As a coach, you have to do that too.
He can't get out of his tendencies. Like, it's like he's just stuck. He'll talk about it before the game, but once the game starts, he is stuck in Neal Brown land.
Well, exactly right. And let's talk about a big tendency that Neal Brown has. With very few exceptions, Neal Brown does not rely heavily on young players.
Huge problem.
Yep.
And I get it. I get that you recruit some FCS secondary guys to fill some holes because they have some experience. But after the Pitt game and after the first half of the Kansas game, at what point don't you understand that maybe the reason, not to say these guys can't grow over the season, they can. I'm not putting anybody down. But maybe these FCS guys aren't quite ready for Power 5 football yet.
Right.
And you could say, hey, these freshmen aren't ready for Power 5 football yet, but we know that the FCS guys aren't performing, so why not give spells in Ben Wahad, in Snow?
Well, there's two different reasons why one isn't ready and the other one isn't ready. The FCS aren't ready. They're not used to that level of play, and they're already in their strong suit. They are who they are. With the other guys, maybe they might not be ready, but it's because that they just don't have enough experience. You have to give them experience to get them ready. For the other guys, they have the experience. They're just not, they're not cutting the mustard.
I looked at the Pro Football Focus grades, and I know not everybody is a Pro Football Focus person. I tend to give a pretty good amount of credence. I think they do a good job with grading players, leave some kind of barometer there. And even though he only played a half last week, Wesley McCormick was the highest graded player on our defense. I was a little surprised to see that, but he only played a half, so obviously that factors into it. But I don't know. He had such a high grade coming from James Madison, and I know that's an FCS program. His grade was on par with Charles Woods' grade. Two different levels of competition, obviously, but I think they thought they'd made the transition with Charles Woods. Same deal. They could do it again. They recruit a certain type of athlete for that position, and they fit the physical criteria. but there's so much more about football than just the physical criteria. It's such a mental game. And when you get to a situation, I actually talked with Mike Ossie today about it. He said Rasheed Marshall said that he knew that we were going to get diced up because that's the offense he basically played in under Rich Rod for all those times.
Yep.
And it's funny that we're on the other end of it in a sense, getting diced up by running quarterback, running read options. So it's an interesting thing. I have a question for you guys, though. If Neal Brown is ever fired, do you guys have a pie in the sky, maybe not realistic, but a pie in the sky candidate that you would love to see in Morgantown?
Hugh Freeze. Hugh Freeze or Tom Herman. And I get a lot of pushback because of the character issue with Hugh Freeze, but that's been a while. It looks like he's matured. He hasn't had any character issues at Liberty. And let's not forget, Liberty is, one of those private, Christian institutions. So they keep an eye on him. I'm not saying they're perfect. Christians aren't better than other people, nothing like that. But they've kept an eye on him. He's kept his nose clean. And I think that he would bring a level of excitement. He knows how to win. He knows how to win at the Power 5 level. When he was at Ole Miss, say what you want about his character, but the dude won at a high level at Ole Miss. And the SEC West, as tough as the Big 12 is, the SEC West is brutal. It is very tough to win over there. And Hugh Freeze was beating Nick Saban in Alabama fairly often. Nick Saban hated to play Hugh Freeze Ole Miss teams. So I think Hugh Freeze, not only would he be a good coach, but how do I word this? He might bring a certain level of intimidation to other teams, if that makes sense.
I'm going to answer that, but before I do, I want to say in response to what Paul said. It's interesting that he said it about what Rasheed Marshall said about we were going to get diced up, because when I was talking to Dale Wolfley earlier this week, we were just having a phone call. He told me, think about that game, Travis. What did they do to us? And ultimately his answer was, they Pat Whited us.
Yep.
When I thought about it, I'm like, I hadn't really thought about it that way, but that's exactly what they did. And we've been told the whole offseason that we have all these athletes in the secondary now that can recover from mistakes. They have more speed, they have more length, they can recover. And Kansas showed that to be maybe a complete falsity.
Well, they can recover getting beat on routes. They can't recover when they're out of place and there's a dual threat quarterback that makes them pay. I think there's two aspects of recovering. They have good recovering speed on route running, but they sure as heck do not have good recovery speed when they don't cover their lanes.
And credit to their quarterback, Jalen,
really good player,
is the right guy to run that offense.
Absolutely.
So I don't necessarily mind Hugh Freeze. I mean, the character issues are what they are. I am a believer in people being afforded second chances, even if the second chance is a relatively short rope. So
yeah,
I don't mind that. Even though he just lost to App State, though, I got to say my pie in the sky is Jimbo. Jimbo has won a national championship. Jimbo has won multiple ACC conference titles at a time when the ACC was playing really good football. People think he's older than he is. He's only in his mid-50s.
56.
So he's
right on Rich Rod's age.
He's got 10 to 12 years left in him of good coaching. Texas A&M, like people are like, well, but what has Texas A&M done? And 8 wins, 9 wins, sometimes 10 wins in a tough SEC. I think Texas A&M was out of their depth moving into the SEC anyway. And, people talk – I kind of laughed about it too. I'm like, man, the Texas A&M donors have to be, pooping their pants right now that they just spent how many millions of dollars on the #1 recruiting class in history, only to get bumped by App State. But we all know, even when you get a bunch of 5-stars as freshmen, they're not going to contribute in a super big way just yet. So
Yeah.
I like Jimbo the best, but I don't mind Hugh Freeze either. I guess ultimate pie in the sky, if we're dreaming big,
Nick
not
Saban.
that just whatever happened, but Saban, man.
Of course.
I don't care if he has only 5-6 years left. That guy is proven.
Yeah.
My pie in the sky is, and I know it's not a great culture fit. We've never had a black coach at West Virginia and head coach. I would love Deion Sanders.
Yes.
I think he would be excellent. You talk about a program changer. It would be. I just believe
that dude has some fight.
He would be a different team in 2 or 3 years, if not less, with him at the helm.
He's definitely a fighting coach. Okay, so the reason I don't like Jimbo is he's a great recruiter. The dude is an A+ recruiter, but he left Florida State in shambles. Texas A&M is not looking good right now. If they fire him after this year or in the next year, Texas A&M could be in shambles after he leaves. So my biggest issue with him is programs usually are worse after he leaves than before he got there. So that would be I would be a little nervous. I will say the one plus about him is he has a lot of experience in Power 5. He does have a national championship under his belt, and he is a West Virginia guy. So there are some pluses in there, but I don't like his track record overall. I really don't. He comes into a good situation and messes it up, basically. He did get that national championship at Florida State, but when he left, they had one of the worst offensive lines in the entire nation because he kept neglecting recruiting at those positions, and they basically had trash for an offensive line. I still hear it from Florida State fans on my YouTube channel, Go to Blue Dude, from Florida State fans all the time. They are still mad. They're like, is this going to be the year that we recover? Is it going to be next year or the next or the next? Is Mike Norvell the coach to get us to recover from that? And, I don't think Texas A&M is going to be as bad of a position as Florida State when Jimbo leaves, but it could be, a little worse than when he found it, because at this point in time, Kevin Sumlin and Jimbo Fisher at the same exact game. Kevin Sumlin actually has one more win than Jimbo Fisher at this exact game in each coach's career at Texas A&M.
Kevin Sumlin did have an advantage that Jimbo did not, though. And I hope you know who I'm talking about.
Talking about Johnny?
Yep.
Yeah. But was he there when he got there, or did he recruit Johnny?
I can't.
He recruited Johnny.
Yeah. So my comparison is this. So Kevin Sumlin got his lightning in the bottom with Johnny, and Jimbo got his lightning in the bottom with Jameis. So that kind of washes out as far as getting talent. Now Jimbo won a national championship with Jameis because he had a lot more talent on that offense. And don't forget about that Florida State defense on that 2013 national championship team. It was freaking insane. It was one of the best I've seen in a long time. But to your point, Travis, Texas A&M was actually at a pretty good level. They just weren't happy with the results. And so they bring in Jimbo, who's, won a national championship at Florida State not too long ago. And it just seemed like it's roller coastering, but it's roller coastering, downward. It's not nosediving, although this year they just lost Appalachian State. I don't know. But it's been doing this up and down, but steadily going down. And I want to think that if he coached at West Virginia, it would be different because he's a West Virginia guy, and maybe he would care just a little bit more because he's come out and said he's an actual West Virginia fan. So being a fan of the team that you coach might make you might make you care just a little bit more than being at, and I'm not saying he doesn't care at A&M, but I'm saying it would be, extra care at West Virginia. Maybe that can make a difference. That would be the only thing that I would be like, maybe it's worth a shot. But his track record, I don't like it. I don't like it.
Can we talk about somebody that some fans have been clamoring for that I absolutely don't want back?
Yes.
Speaking of Pat Whiting, somebody.
Rick Trickett.
I just thought of it because literally while we're on this call, I got a chat from one of my friends who was like, "Why are our fans, out of their minds talking about?"
Hey, hold that thought just for a second, buddy. I need to get these couple super chats. David Cummings, thank you for the $5 donation. Says the right guys are here tonight. Right guys are always here tonight. They get it and have the same attitude as us fans that are fed up with playing to lose. Yep. Go for it. CJ would get it. Yes, he would have. 100%. And then Aaron Alley says, hi, Go to Blue. How are you? We're doing great. How are you this evening? It's Friday night. We're talking West Virginia football. What more could you ask for? All right, back to Rich Rod talk.
Rich Rod's not the right fit anymore. The game has passed him by. His sort of day in the sun, his offense was great while we had it. He kind of caught lightning in a bottle with Pat White, Steve Slayton, and Owen Schmidt. And he hasn't duplicated it since anywhere that he went. So why would that be a fit for us is the question that I pose back to people who are like, they just remember that Rich Rod won here before, but can he do it again?
The only pushback I would give on that is kind of the same argument that I used for Jimbo. What if coaching for West Virginia just means more to him? That's why he had more success at West Virginia. He went to Michigan for the money, but he didn't really care that much. Coming back to West Virginia, maybe, and I'm not advocating for him, I'm just playing devil's advocate. Maybe it would mean more to him as a head coach to come back to West Virginia, and he would care more as a head coach. That could possibly be an argument, but I don't know. Because, we talk about the glory days of West Virginia Rich Rod, but the glory days are going on like 15 years now. So,
right.
You do have a point.
It's history. We've had three seasons that were what I would consider to be relevant. Since 2012, we've had times where we were relevant and fell back into mediocrity, but it's enough to make you sick. Really, when I think about it, it's man, my dad would roll over in his grave. He passed away in 2013, never knowing these last 10 years.
Yeah, that's why I like Hugh Freeze, because he's really an intimidating head coach. He's doing great at Liberty. When he was at Ole Miss, Nick Saban didn't like him, and Nick Saban is a good example. Alabama, whenever they play a team, they almost beat them before they even take the field. I think that Hugh Freeze could be that type of coach at West Virginia. I really do. Now, my argument for Tom Herman is the reason why he got fired at Texas was not because he was not successful. I don't know how people get that twisted up. All you got to do is remember what happened and look at the records. Like, he was successful. The reason he got fired was because him and the boosters didn't get along. That's the bottom line. He had a 10-win season. Yes, they had a slight step back here, 8-5, and then they went 7-3 in the COVID year, but they were like one play away from getting to the Big 12 championship in that COVID year. Tom Herman was recruiting even for Texas, he was recruiting at a high level. Boosters and Tom Herman didn't get along, and that's why that fell apart. If he can get along with the boosters, I think Tom Herman would do West Virginia really good as far as and he's used to the Big 12. We're in the Big 12. There's that argument as well.
He did well at Houston for sure. He had a great run there. I have to make one correction. From my memory bank, Mike Sherman was the head coach at Texas A&M. when Johnny Manziel came in, and not Kevin Sumlin, because that 2011 was Mike Sherman's last year, Johnny's first year, and then 2012 was Sumlin when he was hired. So I apologize.
So it's kind of the same situation as Jimbo was at Florida State. He didn't recruit him,
Right.
but caught him. Well, that's an even closer comparison. And you are correct, by the way. Aaron Alley, thank you for the $5 donation, says, I can see why you did not like Dana Hargison. I just seen his true colors last week. That's what I've been trying to tell people. Like, Dana Holgerson and Neal Brown are bad, but in different ways. Dana Holgerson pulled back West Virginia, and Neal Brown just can't get us back to where we are. I mean, we're seeing Dana he went 12-2 last year. Yeah, but he got spanked by Texas Tech, and he got spanked by Cincinnati. And then he played a bunch of nobodies. So then this year, Texas Tech, who's like a middle-of-the-road Big 12, once again, Houston gets beat. That's the type of coach he is.
He puts Band-Aids over everything. That's how I felt, but he was in West Virginia.
Yes.
If we needed a player, he got either a JUCO player or a transfer guy. And I'm okay with that.
He didn't care about defense at all.
But when he, I guess if you're going to be a lifer in a spot, you could maybe sustain that. But when you leave a place and your numbers are so depleted, I mean, obviously that's one of the reasons he left. That and he just didn't really like our culture in West Virginia. But man, our numbers were terrible. He didn't recruit the state of West Virginia. We got players begging to come that went to the league.
Yes.
The kid that played North Carolina comes to mind. He would have been great in that offense. Can you think of a better player for that offense in college than that kid?
People don't realize that. That's a good point. There's a lot of players that wanted to come to West Virginia that just did not get recruited by Dana Holgerson. It is insane when you think about it. That's how bad of a recruiter he was. Not only did he not take the extra mile, but you have these great athletes that want to come to West Virginia. He's so lazy, he won't even, talk to him.
Ryan Switzer, he didn't come back to North Carolina and help coach this past offseason. He came to West Virginia. It makes me sick that he didn't get to go there. And I've been told by other players, one that made a huge play in the Orange Bowl that Dana tried to kick him out of town. Just things like that. But, one of the names,
if you watch the game,
he was
not a player's coach. He would go around high-fiving his assistants, but not the players. You could see that on the field. You're muted again, Travis.
I keep doing that to reduce the feedback, and then
you forget to unmute yourself.
Is it mine?
I think we're good now. I don't hear it.
Oh.
But how about whenever Josh Lambert had kicked his second straight walk-off field goal, and Lambert was like, "I didn't even know Coach Holgerson knew my name."
That was
he wasn't joking when he said that. It was, people thought it was a joke, but it really wasn't. I've talked to several former players who all said the same thing about.
He was the quarterback's best friend, and that was it.
Yep.
That's all that mattered to him. And he had issues on getting rid of bad personnel, like his good buddy Joe DeForest, who tanked our defense. And instead of firing the dude, he put him on special teams. And then our special teams tanked. Are you kidding me?
I thought he was special teams first. Was he not? Did you
no, he was defense. He was defense first.
Yeah, defense first.
Yeah, and that's why our defense was so bad in 2012. We had a great team that year too, but our defense was not well coached. And instead of firing the dude, he sends him to special teams, and then our special teams goes in the tanks. It's ridiculous.
Well, the only contradiction, and I'll play devil's advocate a little bit, just like you did a few minutes ago. Our defense was basically in the first Big 12 year, it was a bunch of true freshmen. So they can be forgiven a little bit, but you're right though. Then he moved to special teams, and special teams still has not recovered to this day.
That's how bad he messed that up. Aaron Alley, thank you for the $5 donation. Who do you think will be a good fit for University of Houston's head coach? I actually think Dana Hargison is a good fit for Houston right now. We'll see what they do in the Big 12, but for where you're at and for what you're doing, and I know you don't like that he lost to Texas Tech, and I think you're thinking forward is your point. That's a good question. I'd have to think about that. So let's play this game real quick, all right? Houston's headed to the Big 12. Houston fans are seeing what we've been trying to tell them, that Dana Holgerson can't beat, decent competition in the Big 12. Is there anybody that they could bring in that's attainable and that would want to come to Houston?
I think he coaches at Kansas.
Lance Leopold. I think West Virginia needs to go after Lance Leopold too, to be honest with you. He impressed me.
Well,
I think he has an updated version of Rich Rod's offense, and that's why it's working.
Yeah, well, and basically Kansas did what we do better than we do it. And that's they fought. They wanted to prove misconception. They wanted to prove that everybody's perception of them was a misperception. That's what we do historically, and Kansas just did it better than us.
That is who we are.
And we'll see how much of a fighter Neal Brown is, because this is the ultimate position of determining if your team can bounce back, because we got beat in a rivalry game, close, but still loss is a loss. Then we come back home, and yes, Kansas is better, but Kansas is known as the worst team in the Big 12. So now us as fans, them as players, we're all hearing it now. West Virginia must be the worst team in the Big 12 now. You just lost the worst team in the Big 12. So if that doesn't get him in a fighting spirit, nothing will. So
that does mean
Towson, we better play with fire. I don't care if it's Towson. We need to beat them 88-0. I don't care. We need to stomp them into oblivion and show that we have fight. They're getting paid. They're getting their money. I'm not saying injure them or anything, but we need to come out and fight and just play our A game against an FCS and, get back on track. Vandy Rose, thank you for the $5 donation, says Dion for Spice and bring Coach O too. It's actually not a terrible combo. Everyone gives Pete the credit for the USC dynasty, but it was Coach O as the recruiting coordinator, strength and defensive line. That's a good point, actually. That's a really good point.
Because, as long as he's not the head coach.
Right. Because Jamil Adai actually fits the same category as that. He's one of the best recruiters in the entire nation, and you can tell that by whenever he took off, and players follow him around like crazy. So, I would actually, if Ed Orgeron was a recruiting coordinator and wants to be strength and conditioning, I'm good with that. And then of course Dion with his his swag. Actually, West Virginia could use a little swag.
Well, let's talk about Adai for a minute. Part of the Adai's name has been floated up, right, by some folks, but then I'm of the school that Adai probably will be a head coach in the very near future somewhere, and he will probably be a very good one over the course of his career. Not opposed to that idea, but for the fact that I just wonder whether Adai has burned a bridge too many, because word on the street, of course, and this is all rumors, so we don't know for sure, but word on the street is he said some pretty nasty things about our program to get Messidor down to Miami. So,
well, that, and he was still mad that Neal Brown didn't promote him to defensive coordinator, and I agree with that. But if you have Neal Brown gone, then you don't really have that friction. I would not bring him on as an assistant Neal Brown. That's a recipe for disaster. Too much friction. But if Neal Brown is gone, then maybe it could work because he doesn't have anybody to be, button heads like that. I am of the mindset that I think he should have been our defensive coordinator. I mean, he makes a difference in defenses by being the defensive back coach. Could you imagine if he was actually the coordinator? Right. And what was he, the number 2 recruiter in 2021? The entire nation, number 2? Come on now.
I caught some flack for mentioning him on Twitter a couple days ago. And I had a few people say he's never even been a coordinator. And what people don't realize is that is almost an old philosophy now, to be a coordinator before you have to be a head coach. PJ Fleck,
players.
Dabo Sweeney, all coaches who have never been a coordinator. And Urban Meyer's another one. All positional coaches promoted to head coach. So it's not something that can't be done. He already recruits at the highest levels.
Yep.
So,
and he attracts high recruits that he recruited from another school, and they follow him. If he leaves the trail, I mean, people follow him, and I'm not talking about middle of the road. The bigger recruits, the cream of the crop, follow him. This year it was Hakeem Mesidor from West Virginia to Miami, because he's at Miami now. When he went from West Virginia to Georgia, Tyke Smith, rated the best safety in the entire nation. When he came from Arizona to West Virginia, Tony Fields, one of the best linebackers in the nation. I mean, he brings in the high caliber athletes. I'm not totally against that. I understand people that are saying, he's never been a coach, so experience matters. Yeah, but I mean, whatever he's touched has turned to gold.
I think at the end of the day, I think that no matter who would buck against it, at the end of the day, wins speak volumes. And if he came in and we started winning games, I think people would have a rather short memory about.
I'd be completely fine with him coming as a coach.
And it wouldn't shock me either. I mean, I have some questions, but if it happened, I'd be like, okay, I sort of expect. It's not one of those things where you're like, nah, that'll never happen. It's like, all right, let's try this out and see what happens. And if he had success, it wouldn't surprise me. We're up to 100 people watching. This is a good one. If y'all haven't hit the like button, that's what helps the video hit the YouTube algorithm and gets suggested more people click on it. And we have a bigger audience, so that's an easy, simple, fast, and free way to support the channel. But if you have a question for us or a comment, or you want to troll us, we had a troll earlier. That's fine. Best way to get our attention is the super chat button. That's that little dollar sign that you see on the bottom right-hand corner, right under the comments section. Anything that you put in that super chat, I throw on the screen, just like you see here with Vanity Rose. If it's a question, we'll read the question and answer to the best of our ability. If it's a comment, we'll read it and address that as well. And even if it's a troll, we appreciate you supporting the channel so much that I'll still read the troll comment. Anybody else besides the names that we mentioned, as far as maybe not, oh man, we got to get him, but maybe piques your interest for a head coach?
Bill O'Brien.
I've heard that one before. Yes. I think he has I think he's one of those, what do you call it? Rehabilitated.
He's a saving guy.
Yeah, rehabilitated coaches that, kind of slumped down, and now he's under Saban's wings, and he's waiting for a spot. Why not West Virginia? And you see, once these coaches are rehabilitated, whenever they do get the head coaching job, usually they do pretty good. I mean, Kirby Smart is the first assistant to actually beat Saban, but as long as they're not playing Saban, they do well. And West Virginia being in the Big 12, he won't have to worry about that. What do you think, Travis?
I think there are some guys on our staff that might be okay. Graham Harrell, why not give him a shot?
Oh, absolutely.
Tony Washington.
What about this? So going back to the backyard brawl, and that 4th and inches call, that was up to that call came down to Neal Brown playing analytics and percentages. Graham Harrell was going to go for it, and it got vetoed.
So they had a play ready to go.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So yes,
all I can do is call play.
And
I don't even think it was a question for him, to be honest. I don't even think he questioned it.
And that makes me mad at Neal, because I thought he was handing over the reins. What are you doing then if you're vetoing calls? Like, you have, okay, as a head coach, you have seen over the past 3 years that your play calling is not working. You're good at delegating, you're good at being a head coach, but you're not good at play calling. But then whenever it comes to a play that you can't get out of your comfort zone, you veto your offensive coordinator's play call and call for a punt, and eventually we lose. Why could he not be in Neal Brown land for that one play? I don't understand.
So you don't think Neal Brown would be better with JT Daniels at quarterback? Because I think he would be. I don't know that he would be as good as Graham, but it's not a fair comparison. Really. You know, we're a year better, and also we don't have Daggy.
Right.
So I just wonder if Neal got, not that he's better than Graham Harrell, but I just wonder if he would be comparable with what we have this year.
That's a good question because we don't have anything to directly compare it to.
Right.
Yeah. But I guess where West Virginia fans are at right now is what we're doing is not working. Like anything that I know we're on year 4 and that's still fairly early, but we should be taking the step of winning competitive games close. It's like Bobby Bowden says, you take over a rebuild process and you start out by getting blown out, right? And then the next step is you lose, you're competitive, but you lose in close competitive games. Next step is you're competitive and you start winning those competitive games by close margins. And then the next step is you slowly start turning into the championship, team, and you start stretching leads. We haven't taken the step of being competitive and losing in close games to being competitive and winning in close games. What's missing that's keeping us from moving from one step to the other?
Good question.
Well, against Kansas, I honestly believe this based on my comments from the beginning of this show. We got out coached.
Yeah. Right.
We weren't ready. I mean, they said we prepared. 2 things that they said after the game, and on Monday, we prepared for the triple option. You did? You sure?
Yeah, it didn't look like it.
After the game, Neal Brown says, as he always does, we had a game plan and it didn't work. Again, back to my point about if the game plan isn't working,
then change it.
These are college football players who have been. I mean, listen to JT Daniels talk, right? JT Daniels, they're asking him about the fade route that he threw against Pitt to Bryce Ford Wheaton, and he says, you guys make a big deal about timing. I've thrown a lot of footballs, and my receivers have caught a lot of footballs. We can get that down in the first day or 2.
Yep.
And JT Daniels is not the only smart, intelligent football player on that team. Right. You can adjust. You can tell them to do different things at halftime, and many of them will adjust according to your instruction.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of a parent that won't let their kids, because they think that they're not capable of doing something, so they won't let them. So it's like, just do exactly what I say and don't try anything on your own and don't switch anything, and we're not going away from what we've always done, versus the parent that's like, all right, I see that you're into football, I trust you, go out and try for the team. He seems like the parent that's too controlling over his kids.
Well, the fourth and CJ Donaldson could have breathed and got that far call was exactly that, wasn't it? And
yep.
That's why I thought, until I looked back at the game again and sort of saw it with fresh eyes, that's why I thought, man, that 4th and 1 call came back to bite us today, because it didn't look like the defense was fighting.
Yes, and that's exactly what I said on that video. I'm like, not only did it change, and I know it's still hearsay because we weren't guaranteed to still win if we'd gone for it, but what we were saying is, you get it. You're showing your team, hey, we're going to fight. You can at least run some clock, and you're close enough to where if you get 1 first down, you're probably going to be in field goal range and get 3 points. So now you have a 10-point lead with 3.5 minutes instead of punting with only a touchdown lead with 6.5 minutes. So there's that game. And then this game, it was kind of a hangover from that. And him showing that he's not going to fight for it, I think it's in their heads.
Yeah, well, the
coach has to show he's willing to fight for his team.
They need to get, just plain and simple, they've got to get urgency to them. And and that's top down. You know, one of the things that I wrote about in my article for this week was, look, you know, I can honestly say that we are 3 plays away from being 2-0 right now. Yes, I get it. Other things have to happen too, but 3 plays are the difference between 0-2 and 2-0.
Yes.
A muff punt, a roughing the passer, and a not going forward on fourth and long.
Exactly.
Yep.
So,
and you guys are explaining the difference between losing competitive games and winning competitive games. You literally described it right there.
Right. But okay, so I'm going to take it a step further. And what were we saying, Chris, you and I, in our preseason talks? We were saying there's no way that this 5-7 prediction holds any water, because last year we had Jarrett Dagey and we went 6-6 in the regular season, and we upgraded that position. How can we be worse? Because then we looked at it, and last year we said, you know, we're honestly a half dozen plays away from being 8-4 and maybe even 9-3 last year.
Yep.
And the frustrating part is that we are still a few plays away from being better than we are right now. But they're always the same few plays. It's always the same thing.
You have to start winning those few plays.
And when that happens, it falls in the leader's laps, doesn't it? If it's always the same mistakes, that's on the leader.
Yes, West Virginia is 0-2, not 2-0. Yes, we know. We're saying 3 plays separates West Virginia from being 0-2 to 2-0. We are 0-2 because of 3 plays, basically. And we know there's a lot of other factors, but when you break it down, we're trying to explain why West Virginia hasn't taken the step of losing close competitive games to starting to win close competitive games. And it comes down to just a few plays. That's what it comes down to.
And
West Virginia needs to start making the plays.
He makes a good point, though. That's exactly right. You are what your record is, according to basically every good coach to coach the game, right? We are 0-2.
We're not 2-0 if this, and this happen. We're 0-2.
But
we got to talk about something.
But when you talk about how the sausage gets made and why Neal Brown is not the right fit for us, or why it is that the team has to show urgency that has to come from the leadership down, you look at it and you say, we're this close, but Neal Brown can't push us across the line, and that's the problem. That's why we're sitting here saying, okay, we lost to number 17. And we lost to a Kansas team that everybody in the country potentially underestimated. We'll see what happens, but I think Kansas might actually be like a 6-6 team by the end of the year.
Well, a good comment in the comment section as well is they're saying this is the same reason why Scott Frost got fired. Yes, going 3-9, 3-9, 3-9, there's about 1 or 2 plays in every stinking play. Yeah. And I don't necessarily disagree with Jimmy Touchdown here. Thank you for the $5 donation. Says Neal Brown and Shane Lyons have done permanent damage to West Virginia in the middle of realignment. That does play a factor. Yes, when you need to show your value, we're starting down 1-11. Jimmy, you've trash talked a lot, but my gosh, that comment right there, it should be like a Nostradamus type of comment. That is like explains our situation. Conference realignment is going on right now. We have the potential of having a good year. We're trying to go from losing close games to winning close games, but we keep losing, so we're not proving value. So we're going to end up in the worst possible situation we can find ourselves. Now, whether that's the Big 12 or the Big 12 gets picked apart and we end up in the AAC, I don't know. I'm saying whatever that worst case scenario is, we're headed in that direction if we don't turn things around. I 100% agree with this. 100%.
Yeah.
Falconer X, thank you for another 305. I like the 305. U of Miami has 6 natties except for 1 bad call, but you still have 6 natties.
Pass interference against the Buckeyes. Supposed
that and I saw ESPN talk about that again the other day, and that made me mad. I am not a Miami fan. I am not. That national championship was given to Ohio State on that call. That was not pass interference. I'm on Miami's side on that one. It wasn't.
I am not a Buckeyes fan, I'll tell you that. As a matter of fact, they're right up there with it. For me personally, for personal reasons, with Pitt, Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
I live in Southern Ohio now, and unfortunately, all my friends are Ohio State fans.
Yeah.
And I can't even breathe the words West Virginia around.
Oh,
I don't qualify to have a conversation.
And it's not that they hate you; they look down on you.
I just did a video about it yesterday on this channel.
Penn State fans and Ohio State fans are worse than Pitt fans. And I talked to Pitt fans at the game, and they hate Penn State worse than West Virginia for the same exact reason. They look down on us as humans, not as a team, as freaking human beings. I'm telling you, Penn State fans and Ohio State, not all of them. I have some good subscribers, but I'm saying when you get into their territory, you are substandard when it comes to a human being. Jimmy says, "I'm not blue and gold, dude. By the way, I'm a kind troll.
He's a good troll.
He's a good one. He's the good troll from the north.
As in, you're a bad one, dude. I love that comment. That's a good one, Jimmy.
Something you were talking about, Travis, just made me think too. Like, I think a lot of us are in denial, and a good acronym for denial is "Don't even know I'm lying to myself."
Oh man,
yeah. Don't even know I'm lying to myself about Neal Brown. You know, it's almost like I've lied to myself for all these years about what could happen, and it's just like I'm still waiting. I'm at the bus stop, and I'm still waiting. And
it makes you appreciate what Rich Rod did do at West Virginia that much more.
It does, and Don Nealon as well. And even Bill Stewart. Looks really good right now.
Well, we kind of got too big for our britches there for a minute, didn't we?
I ain't heard that in a while. Too big for my britches.
So, Travis, me and you have been doing this show for a while, and you've seen the evolution of my background. What do you think, buddy?
I like it. It has grown. You put some different teams' helmets behind you too.
That's all my subscribers. I have not bought a thing.
But I like it, man. It's good stuff. Mine has. I basically have changed camera angles. Mine hasn't changed too much.
I noticed it, man. I was like, wow.
Simplicity.
Travis, whatever you have done, man, I see it. That's a big improvement. Nice job.
My background is a sheet with 2 pieces of material that my mom didn't use to sew stuff for me in West Virginia colors.
Hey, listen. This is 3 years right here. My background was a white freaking wall to start. That was it. It was a white wall. I actually, and you know, I get trolled a lot about being in my parents' basement. Well, first couple of shows, we're actually in my parents' basement down there in the white wall. I didn't live with my parents, but I didn't have the room for a studio at the time. Yeah, I didn't have room for a studio at the time. But this, you know, we got this house, and I do. So, you know, this is 3 years. This is 3 years. It didn't happen overnight, and I have my subscribers to thank. Like they, you know, I got a PO box, and I said, "Hey, represent your team, send gear," and they have answered the bell. And we're actually thinking about. I might get some input on this. We're thinking about doing a contest of whatever conference, Power 5, Group of 5, whatever conference gets filled first from the subscribers. We're going to do some type of reward, whether it's a special celebration video or a celebration live show or an actual cash value prize. We're going to talk about it and see which conference has the most pride when it comes to mini helmets and what conference fills out the first. And that was not my idea, by the way. That was whose idea was that? I can't even think. Oh, that was Jeff Grimm's. Jeff Grimm. You know Jeff, Alabama fan. Jimmy Touchdown says, "I'm sending you a Marshall and NC State mini helmet. Bring it on." I will.
Well, put that Marshall thing back there.
I will. I'm telling you, I'll represent it. Hey, if somebody sends in the Pitt helmet, it's going back there, man. That's just how I roll.
It's a promise you made to your fans, huh?
It doesn't mean that I have to look at it, but you know.
My phone's on 1%, guys. I got to sign off.
I got you, buddy.
I can't
Good
even
show,
keep
man.
a charge while I'm doing this for some reason.
No, I understand. You're good, man. Good show. We'll have
I've
you
had
back
a good
on.
time.
Yeah,
You guys can find me at Mountaineer Paul on Twitter if you need to holler at me, and I do videos for this show or this channel.
And
quite a
you're
bit.
thinking about starting your own YouTube channel, right?
Yeah, that's the works.
All
As
right.
of right now, I'm just trying to help you guys and Mark out here on this channel, and I'll be moving on to my own spot here this coming week, actually.
Well, just realize you have the engines of Golden Blue Dude, Cruise's Corner, Travis Kenobi. You have a lot of engines behind you that's going to push whenever you go out. So we're ready, man. Just give us the nod, and we'll get behind you.
I appreciate it. This has been a dream come true for me, to be honest. I watched you guys for months and decided to dive in, and I'm really grateful that I did. So
We're just hanging out talking football, man. That's all we're doing. We're hanging out talking football.
Good having you with us.
All right.
Great show, buddy. We'll have you back on.
Let's go Mountaineers.
Have a good weekend. How about that?
We'll have a good day tomorrow. See Nico by the middle of the second quarter.
Ready.
I like it.
Yep.
All right, let's see here.
Later, guys.
Later, buddy. Have a good one. The Rod Farva, is that does that look right? The Rod Farva, am I pronouncing that right? The Rod Farva.
Yeah, Rod Farva from the movie with the cop.
Oh.
Why am I blanking on the Super Troopers?
I'm slow.
Yep.
Oh, pull over. I am over. More. Thank you for the $10 donation. OSU grad here from Dayton. So Ohio State fan. We were just, where's that? No, Ohio State. I see the picture. We're not all pricks. I know. I tried to shield you from it. I promise. I love West Virginia. My mom's parents were from West Virginia. Gramps from Pax, West Virginia, and Grandma from a small town outside of Beckley called Tolleytown. I know where that is, by the way. And yes, there are a lot of Ohio State fans that have family from West Virginia. And whenever I say Ohio State fans, it's really the Ohio State fans that are in the city of Columbus. That city right there, it's rough being a West Virginia fan. I mean, you hear it all. You hear it all. Jimmy Touchdown says Marshall is the premier football team in West Virginia for 2022, my friend. Yes, I will agree with that. Falconerx. Falconerx. Yeah, Falconerx. I'm going to go with that. 306 donation. I will send the U helmet if you show it. Absolutely. Falconerx, the U is one of the helmets that I would buy if it doesn't get bought like within 6 months or whatever. But because it's in my opinion, my humble opinion, I think it is one of the prettiest helmets out there. It's simple, but that that orange and that green go very well on that white helmet. I love it. I think it's right up there with, you're going to hate me, Travis, Texas. I think Texas has a beautiful helmet. I really do. But I will most definitely show. I will give it a good spot. If you send that U helmet, I will give it a good spot. I love the U helmets.
Chris, you'll get a kick out of this. I'm gonna tilt my camera up real quick.
Oh, big change, guys. Hold on. Oh,
you see that?
Yes.
That's that poster is the city of Pittsburgh.
Yes. I can tell. And coming out, and people told me that coming out of Fort Pitt into the city of Pittsburgh is, something you want to see. I didn't realize how almost awe-inspiring. It's like you're going from one section of the country to another. You're going from country to city.
Yeah. No, I actually had an idea. One of my favorite bands is Radiohead, and the opening track on their Hail to the Thief album, it's got like a steady tempo to start. It's relatively slow, and then all of a sudden it switches and it's like disorganized chaos over that same beat.
Yeah.
And my video idea for that song was like you're driving up to the tunnel in like fall in the rain, and your windshield wipers are going to the beat of the song, and as it starts speeding up a little bit until it gets to the part where it just comes crashing down, you're going through the tunnel, and then when it all goes hectic and chaotic, you're outside in the city of Pittsburgh. It's like panoramic view in front of you.
Nice. I like it. Me and Coos were talking about how West Virginia needs to change their entrance as far as music, because we loved the Thunderstruck entrance that Pitt has. I was surprised. They have a good entrance, not going to lie. Gets the crowd hyped. And we know that West Virginia is all about tradition. We love our band, Pride of West Virginia, and I get that, but we need a more intimidating entrance. Virginia Tech has Enter Sandman. Pitt now has Thunderstruck. I mean, there's some really good entrances. Clemson has the most electric 25 seconds in all of college football, which if you haven't seen a Clemson entrance in real life, you got to, man. I've seen it twice, and it is freaking amazing. West Virginia needs an intimidating entrance. It sets the tone.
It helps that Thunderstruck is like if it's not my favorite song, it's in my top 5 of all time. That's
right.
Such a great song.
Yeah.
But you're right. We need something.
I would be okay with I know it's the Bengals song, but I would be okay with Welcome to the Jungle.
What about this? Given the Cole inspiration that we have.
Okay.
What if we did Paint It Black? Think about it.
That's not bad. And me and Coos also talked about having a makeshift tunnel that resembles a coal mine coming out of the weight room, something that you can put up and take down easily. As much as I love that weight room, honestly, I think our entrance from the corner was more epic. Out of the blow-up helmet, I thought that entrance was more epic than out of the weight room. So if we're going to stick with the weight room, we need it. I mean, if you want to keep that open, that's fine. But let's do a makeshift tunnel where it looks like they're coming out of a coal mine.
Yeah.
And then in the combination of the song that you said, Painted Black.
I mean, Paint It Black, man. That gets you. If that song doesn't get you going, and you like rock music,
yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell you.
You might want to check your pulse.
Yeah,
that's what I'd tell you. Definitely. Me and Coos are actually trying to think of top 10 songs that we'd like to hear for West Virginia entrance to make it, more intimidating. I think that should be on there. I'm gonna tell him that.
All right, man.
All right, man. It doesn't feel like that we've been doing this for almost an hour and a half, but we have. Can you believe that? 1 hour and 22 minutes. I can't believe it, man. It goes by really fast. I just had too much fun. But Jimmy Touchdown says Pitt stole Thunderstruck from Marshall, LOL. Is that true? Is he trolling or is that true? Does Marshall have Thunderstruck?
I have no idea.
I've never watched the Marshall entrance, so I don't. I don't know. I honestly don't know. So
technically, both of them stole it from AC/DC. So
yeah. But that means everybody's stealing. You do that.
Right.
We need to come up with the top 10 list of an entrance song for West Virginia. It needs to have a cool riff before it hits the chorus. You need that cool build-up riff, and then boom, you hit the chorus.
Maybe we should do that for the first
Bells. I like it. Hell's Bells. I like it.
We should do that for the first bye week, man. We should come up with a top 10 list.
The only thing about Hell's Bells is they play it for third downs on pretty much every. But if you go past what they just play for third down, that's it's not bad. Not bad. I like it. I just don't know if anybody would go with that because of the third down thing. I don't know. But anyways, man, I'm going to let you get out of here. I need to get out of here. But I'm going to do like I do on my regular show, and we'll go with last word. So you can be frustrated or nice, whatever. What is your last word for the Friday night show?
My last word is if we don't come out guns blazing against Towson this week, what you're going to hear me say on our next show. I guess on our next show we will have played 2 games, so Virginia Tech will be there. But if we don't come out guns blazing against Towson, we've got an even deeper problem than I think right now.
Yep.
And the team,
it's not Kansas, it's West Virginia,
or the staff, or whoever. Somebody has given up. So let's go Mountaineers. Let's put it to Towson. Let's do what we're supposed to do to an FCS team, get the ship right before we head into Blacksburg, and listen to them play Enter Sandman and say, we don't care. We're going to crush you.
Yep.
That's what I got.
All right, man. Good show as usual, man. I appreciate you jumping on. I really like it whenever we're able to do a show together. Good job as usual, buddy.
I agree. Happy to do it, and have a good weekend. Enjoy the game tomorrow, and all the folks watching who are not West Virginia fans, enjoy your respective games tomorrow. Go Teams.
Absolutely. Have a good weekend, buddy. I'll holler at you later.
All right, you too.
All right, so my last word for this show is whether a player sees this or a coach sees this or not is not the point. This is my thought. West Virginia, you better go out tomorrow and absolutely crush Towson. No mercy. No taking it easy on them. Not, we're just trying to figure out stuff. No, go out and show some fight. We as West Virginia fans, that's what we want to see. If our fight is 80-0 or 72, whatever our best fight is, that's what we need to see tomorrow, because we are sick and tired of just analyzing things and thinking about things. That 4th and 6 inches in the backyard brawl, we should have went for it. I don't care what you say, head coach Neal Brown, we should have went for it like that on that situation, and our season wouldn't be 0-2. We would be 2-0 for sure. If we go for it, we're going to get it. And if we get it, we're going to run some clock, probably get a field goal. We win that game, and we're going to come out fired up against Kansas. That was the problem. We were not fired up for that game. Look, this is a quarter away through our schedule. 3 games. Think about it. A quarter of the way. If we cannot show fight a quarter of the way through the season, then there's a problem, and you are way in over your head. I tried to back you up. I gave you chance after chance after chance. I'm done. I need to see fight. That's the bottom line. We have the offense. Our offense is fixed. And now you can't get our defense ready. You can't have our defense ready to go to war. That's unacceptable. Tomorrow, I want to see our defense ready to go to war, and I want to see our offense absolutely take it to Towson. Take an 80-yard shot, first play of the game. JT Daniels, 80-yard shot, boom, touchdown. That's what I want to see. Take a shot, the first play of the game, and defense smack the offense in the mouth. That's what we want to see. We want to see the defense smack these offenses in the mouth. So get pumped up, show some fight, and punch the opponent right in the freaking mouth. That's what football's all about. Not dancing around and analyzing and trying to figure out the percentages. You tried that. Is it working? No, it's not. Now it's time to go to war. So y'all have a good weekend. West Virginia, it's time to go to war tomorrow. I know it's Towson, but we have something to prove. We need to absolutely stomp and obliterate them. All right? So let's have a good weekend. Let's prepare for a fight. Let's go to war, Mountaineers. Let's go to war. Let's go, Mountaineers.